What is going on, everybody? Welcome finally to the reveal of the Indianapolis Colts in my power rankings, coming in at 21, which I have learned by looking at the comments for all these videos that I am extremely high on this team. Now, as you would expect, I obviously believe Andrew Luck will be back, and we'll talk about why in just a minute. But another big part of this video is going to be trying to get rid of this rhetoric that the Colts are only Andrew Luck, and that they are basically a college roster without him. And I'm going to hopefully talk about some players here, give you a reason to see why there is some talent here. Is it a great roster? No, but when you have Andrew Luck at quarterback, you don't need to have the Jags or the Vikings roster. So let's get into it here. We're going to start with the positional grades, then we'll take a look at the schedule and really talk about my expectations for this team and what this team could achieve this year. So starting with the quarterback, coming in ranked 3rd in the NFL, Andrew Luck, that quarterback weight of 28% in my power rankings calculator, so you know this is a big part of, I suppose, my optimism for this team, even though they do come in at 21st. Look, I get it. If you want to take the approach that he's not going to be back and not going to be able to carry this team like he has proven the ability to do, that's perfectly fine. For me, I take a realistic approach to what happened. So in 2016, he played injured. They took a look at his shoulder after the season and said, wow, we really screwed this thing up. You are going to sit. We are going to take every single precaution we can possibly imagine. We're going to get you healthy. When the draft happens, we're going to take the best damn lineman we can find to keep you upright, and then we'll head into the next season and get you going again and set up to have some of the best quarterback play in the league for the next 10 years. And with Andrew Luck at his best, that is what you get. You get elite quarterback play. Not just a guy that makes everyone around him better, but a guy that has proven the ability from the second he came into this league to carry bad Colts teams, frankly, Colts teams that might not have even had as much talent as this team had. So I hope that explains my optimism a little bit. You know, I have them ranked 3rd, and honestly, if Tom Brady ever shows that he can't continue this Benjamin Button routine, he just might be the 2nd best quarterback in the league. You talk about my elite traits, and Andrew Luck has all 5 of them. C-ball, hit ball, arm, ability to throw guys open, pre-snap and post-snap play recognition. He does throw a little bit too many interceptions, which I get. That's the one thing separating him from Aaron Rodgers. And then number 5 is mobility. Andrew Luck has elite pocket awareness, ability to manipulate the pocket, really good athlete. So he has all 5 of my elite quarterback traits in some shape or form. And I don't think it's going to take too long for him to return to form. He might be a little slow to start. He hasn't played in, about 18 months, but I really do think things are going to click pretty quickly for Andrew Luck and this offense that does rank 7th in the NFL for me. So then behind him, you do have Jacoby Brissett. Interesting project now. He played last year, did not show the ability to carry a bad team, but he did show some very nice things. Former 5-star quarterback prospect, has all the tools in the world. I think we've seen worse quarterbacks than Jacoby Brissett get traded for 2nd or early 3rd round picks. Could end up being a good return on the Colts investment once they get Andrew Luck rolling again here, assuming that they can. Obviously, if Andrew Luck does not play, your case for this team to be 32nd in the league is much more reasonable. But if Andrew Luck is healthy, and again, I think he will be, he's out in the press saying he's good to go, I'm fully convinced he's going to be back. And if that is true, and he's back, it is honestly preposterous to me to rank this team in the bottom 5, given his history to carry bad teams from the second he came into this league. You do have Brad Kaya there as well, another toolsy guy out of Miami, a developmental guy, probably makes this team. So you do have some interesting backups there developing. So let's move on and talk about the rest of this team. And this is going to be a big part of this video, is talking about guys and show that this roster is not just Andrew Luck, and they do have some other things going for him here. That said, I don't think it's the running back position. They do come in 32nd ranked for me for running backs. You got Marlon Mack there. He reminds me a lot of James Starks, which is probably not much of a compliment. Mack probably does have a little better hands. Get him in a straight line. He can be tough to bring down, but I don't see a whole lot of shiftiness or really finesse to his game. But I do think he will be sort of the lead rusher on this team. Then you got Nyheim Hines here. They took in the 4th round. Interesting player. A lot of people were really high on him. I didn't see a lot of shiftiness from him. Definitely doesn't have a great between the tackle skill set. Not a very powerful runner. You know, I see him being really effective on screen passes, wheel routes, kind of getting deep out of the backfield, and maybe some outside zone stuff, but you know, he doesn't really have that good shiftiness, the ability to make guys miss that I love out of really good receiving backs like Theo Riddick. So maybe he can show that and take a step up at the next level, but he definitely didn't show that to me in college. So he'll be a nice weapon here. He'll get involved. And then they take Jordan Wilkins in the 5th round. Honestly, I was pretty critical of this pick. Maybe I end up being wrong. I can't be right about everything, but you know, you had a guy like John Kelly, who I saw as a potential feature back in this league, and you take a slower power back who's going to be honestly kind of like the NFL equivalent of what you have here in Robert Turbin, who is really good pass protector, good goal line guy, but I don't see really as a 3-down type of upside pick for Jordan Wilkins. So it's going to be a total running back by committee here. I truly believe that. Definitely not a backfield that I want any part of as far as fantasy football is concerned. But if Andrew Luck is healthy, he's definitely going to elevate what these guys really are on paper, which is the 32nd room in the league. Let's move on and talk about these receivers. So obviously at the top, you got T.Y. Hilton here. Now, there is this idea that this is a terrible group of receivers after T.Y. Hilton, and on top of that, I think a lot of people sleep on T.Y. Hilton as a really elite receiver in this league. He's not in that same top 5 tier as like A.J. Green, Julio Jones, Antonio Brown, but he is right there, in my opinion, with Keenan Allen, Doug Baldwin as a top 10 wide receiver in this league. On the top of that tier 2 group of guys. Yes, he's 5'9", but at that size, he is really good at catching the ball in contested situations. He's awesome at separating, which in my opinion is the most important trait for wide receivers. He can be an elite deep threat. He can be an elite slot wide receiver. And honestly, with a healthy Andrew Luck, it's pretty easy to make the argument that this is the best quarterback wide receiver duo in the league. I'm a little lower on Big Ben. I think you can make an argument for Aaron Rodgers, Devontae Adams, but Luck and T.Y. Hilton, pretty hard to make a convincing argument against that. But then after T.Y. Hilton, now this isn't, you know, the Pittsburgh Steelers. This isn't the best, deepest group of receivers, but there are guys here who, with a supposedly healthy Andrew Luck, are going to look very good here. So you got Ryan Grant, who's been on my list of sleepers for a long time. I'm really excited to see him in Indianapolis. Our Lads already has him listed as the number 2 here. He got a decent contract. You know, I don't think he's going to emerge as this number 1 type of target, but really effective out of the slot, has some decent speed, size, quickness, really kind of offers everything, really balanced receiver. So he's the guy I want to kind of highlight here as a breakout candidate here for this Colts offense. Someone else is going to get the ball here. It's going to be a very effective passing offense. Again, I rank them 7th in the NFL for overall offense, and it's not like this team with these running backs is going to have this elite running game. So someone's going to be getting the ball here, and I think it's going to be Ryan Grant. If you want to talk fantasy football, he's someone I definitely am targeting in my drafts. Going pretty late, too. A potential league winner type of player there with Ryan Grant. But then you also got Chester Rogers here, who I think is decent. You got some decent physical skill set there. And then they took 2 wide receivers that I really liked, specifically Doris Fountain. He had a total skyrocket in terms of his draft value right before the draft. He has his pro day late at UNI. Really good 40. I think he had like a north of a 40-inch vertical, big dude. Some of the better hands in this class, we just were kind of questioning what his physical ability was going to be coming from a small level of competition. So he's going to be a really interesting guy to monitor here in camp. If he's going to be on the field consistently, he's going to have to take a spot from, you know, Ryan Grant or Chester Rogers, and I guess Deion Kane, who I haven't mentioned yet. But if Fountain is on the field, that is a very good sign for him to be a sleeper candidate himself. Deion Kane, another really balanced wide receiver. You know, Ryan Grant, actually not a terrible comparison for Deion Kane. And it was really strange this draft. A lot of 6th, 7th round receivers that I really liked and had going 3rd to 4th round. So, you know, 2 guys here that definitely fit that mold. At tight end, they signed Eric Ebron. He has potential to become a really explosive weapon in this offense, but you know, he couldn't do it with Matthew Stafford, who I consider a very good quarterback. I don't know why this situation is really going to change anything for Eric Ebron. He did start to get some momentum after a really rough start to his year. Maybe a change of scenery fixes things for him, but I'm certainly not going to project that. I do like Jack Doyle, has very sure hands, It's kind of that Jason Witten style tight end. And then you got Eric Swope, Travis Ross, Mo Alley Cox really going for that former basketball player here. I think all three of those guys are former NCAA basketball players. So we'll see if any of those guys pan out. Swope's been here for a long time, and it's never really been there for him. So this receiving core does come in tied for 22nd. Obviously, if Andrew Luck is healthy, it's really going to elevate the play of guys like Ryan Grant and Jack Doyle. But on paper, tied for 22nd, which is not terrible. And then this is what I really want to highlight here, the offensive line, because reading through the comments of these videos, time after time, I see terrible offensive line. Even if you got Andrew Luck, they can't block, so it doesn't matter. That could not be any further from the truth. Look, I get it. This team gave up a ton of pressures last year, and you look to right before Andrew Luck got hurt. It was a bad offensive line. But this team has done a lot of things to address that. And there is really no reason this shouldn't be a very functional offensive line. At left tackle, you got Anthony Costanzo, who people want to overlook because the rest of this line has struggled so much. But at that left tackle position, the most important position on the field, the most important player responsible for keeping Andrew Luck healthy, ranked as the 4th best left tackle in football according to PFF. Granted, better as a run blocker than a pass blocker, but still good pass protecting grades. So you've got a very good start there. Then you've got Ryan Kelly, who did play pretty bad last year, but a first-round pick 2 years ago, had a good rookie year, but he was playing injured last year. He missed the first half of the year. I think he only played about 400 snaps. So that center position should be pretty secured. Then you take Quentin Nelson, who's going to be the best lineman here, was by many considered the safest player in this class. They got him 6th overall. That is an instant spark to this offensive line. Tremendous run blocker, going to do everything to help a guy like Ryan Kelly get even better. Going to be a superstar type of player that makes the guys around him better. And then at right guard, they do bring Jack Muhort back for a surprisingly cheap contract. He has struggled, but then they take Braden Smith, a guy that for some reason no one wanted to talk about in the 2nd round. They take him very early in that 2nd round. Freak athlete lineman, 6'6" guard. Technically could play tackle at that size. There's a chance because this right tackle position is the weakness here, but you've got Jack Muhort, Matt Slauson, who's been a very consistent interior lineman in this league, coming over from the Chargers, and Braden Smith. So you have incredible depth here to handle injuries. Matt Slauson can play center, and that's only going to increase competition here. So you could seriously make an argument that the interior of this offensive line is one of the best in football. And then right tackle is going to be a problem. You know, the weakest link thing here. They did sign Austin Howard. He'd probably be the starter here. And again, we'll see if maybe they kick Muhort or Braden Smith out, which is frankly what I would try to do. But we really need to drop this narrative that this is a bad offensive line. It's going to be a very functional offensive line next year. It's going to not just allow this team to do what they want to do and be a very efficient offense, but help them do it, which there is a difference in my opinion. So this is not just going to be a good offense. It's going to be a very good offense, an explosive offense. But then we transition to the defensive side of the ball, and they do actually rank dead last in the NFL in defense, so I'm not trying to, oversell this team to be this elite Super Bowl contending team. I just think 32 to 30 is way too low when you look at this offense. So defensively, yes, they are not a very good defense. I will give you guys that. But there are players here who played very well quietly last year. They've done some things to improve. And it's not like this needs to be the Jaguars defense when you have this good offense. So we break the front 7 up into run defense, pass rush, and linebackers. So let's start with the run defense, which low-key, this team was a top 3 team defending the run statistically last year. They did lose Jonathan Hankins and Anderson on this D-line, but you still got Margus Hunt and Al Woods here, who under the radar played extremely well. You're going to get increased playing time for Grover Stewart. So they probably take a slight step back in terms of run defense. John Bostic gone as well at linebacker, who played very good defending the run last year. So I actually have them ranked 22nd against the run. Again, run defense is pretty low in terms of my weight of these power rankings. And then you look at the pass rush here. Now, it's not great, but it is important to say that Jabal Sheard was under the radar, one of the best edge defenders in the entire league last year. definitely helps out with that run defense grade as well. But he can get after the quarterback as well. And this defense is now switching to a 4-3 scheme. Yes, I'm showing my Madden roster here. The Colts and Madden still run a 3-4, so please don't freak out about that. But Jabal Sheard is going to be playing probably a more natural position for him with his hand on the ground. And then in the second round, they take a pair of guys, Kemoko Turay, who I loved as a sleeper, and Tyquan Lewis. Now, I'm not super high on Lewis, but I do think Turay can come in and get after the quarterback right away in this league. And then you also have Terrell Basham here. You're going to have some very good competition competing for that opposite job outside of Jabal Sheard. I think this team has done a good job to beef up that pass rush. It does rank 30th, but it's not going to be so bad that quarterbacks have all day to sit back in the pocket. And it could actually be pretty good if Kemoko Turay can come out and be a big impact right away, which I think is possible. And then the linebackers, this is the ugly on this defense. So really bad group of linebackers if you look at this entire depth chart. Now, really the only upside you have here is Darius Leonard, who they took in the second round. Now, I wasn't actually very high on Darius Leonard. You know, he definitely has the size and speed to be a very high-level linebacker in this league. They are drafting him for that upside here, but for a guy with that physical profile, I thought didn't necessarily pop off the film playing at a low level of competition in college. So again, I could definitely be wrong. I did not like Darius Leonard too much coming out. I thought that might have been a reach. We'll see. They did pick up Sky Moore in undrafted free agency. Undersized guy, but I saw him as a super instinctive guy who can cover. So these two rookies paired with another pair of 7th round rookies, Matthew Adams and Zaire Franklin. So really trying to beef up the competition here. They are recognizing that this is a weakness. These guys are going to be competing with Antonio Morrison and Anthony Walker when all is said and done. I think Leonard starts. I think Walker starts. I think those are probably the two best guys. You got John Simon here as well, who I forgot to mention. He's kind of a hybrid dude now in this new defense. It's going to be interesting to see what they do with him. He's got an interesting skill set. He's really just an average, balanced linebacker, can rush, can cover. So I think it will be John Simon, Leonard, and Anthony Walker when all things are said and done here. But overall, they do rank last at linebacker, and covering that middle of the field could be a bit of a problem for this defense. And then the secondary, you know, I think there's this opinion that this is the worst secondary in the league and they have no talent here. You know, the corners could definitely be better. You got Quincy Wilson, a 2nd round pick last year, who really didn't play too much until the second half. You know, missed about 10 games last year, but starting week 13 came in, was a full-time starter here, and played very well. If you draw his grades out from that time throughout the course of a season, he is a starting #1 corner in this league. He's got the height. Was a big Quincy Wilson fan coming out. A lot of people thought he fell in that draft. So he could certainly establish himself as this team's #1 corner. You got Kenny Moore here, who best projects in the nickel, but when you look at who else is in this depth chart, he might be forced to play outside. And, you know, he's good in coverage. He's got really quick feet, but, you know, you look at like that Bills game, they were able to exploit him, putting a guy like Kelvin Benjamin on the 5'9" corner trying to play outside. So if that's the case, could be a problem. Does a Nate Hairston step up? Chris Milton, DJ White, Pierre Desir? Like, it's not a deep group of corners. There's no doubt about that. If we were just ranking corners here, it's probably the lowest ranking group. But you look at the safeties here, and Malik Hooker, I believe, is the next Earl Thomas in this league, or at least 90% of that. I think very highly of Hooker. He looked great when he was on the field. So honestly, I like the combination of Quincy Wilson and Malik Hooker. And Matthias Farley, I know a lot of Colts fans really like him. You also got Clayton Gathers. It's a good combo there of sort of box safeties, really good run defending, strong safeties. You know, I'm probably a little lower on Farley than some Colts fans, but you could do a lot worse than that safety combo right there. So that's what's bringing this secondary up all the way to 28th. You know, that is what's going to probably end up hurting this team in the end, is these corners in a passing league. Also got to mention TJ Green, freak athlete. You know, maybe they try his hand at corner. I don't know. He's got the physical ability to do it. Really hasn't emerged, but, you know, has a very high physical profile. Was a 2nd round pick a few years ago. I think this team would love to see him step up, but they got those two safeties in Gathers and Farley already that are kind of playing in that role that TJ Green would excel at. So I don't know if we're going to see him on the field too much. So I hope running through this defense, you kind of got an eye for some of the talent that does exist on this defense. It's not an open door You know, the last defense in the NFL last year, keep in mind, the Texans, I think, only gave up like 26 points a game. So if Andrew Luck's healthy, this team can score 28 to 30 points in a lot of games. And, you know, when you have Andrew Luck, you have a chance to win any single game. And then lastly here, as far as the coaching culture is concerned, you know, that is a problem here. It's a team that has forgotten how to win. They're going to have to get some momentum and get this thing rolling. A lot of that's going to fall on Andrew Luck. You know, the coach it's a total wild card here with Frank Reich. They wanted to get Josh McDaniels. If it was McDaniels coming in here, I might be even higher on this team. You know, so they end up sort of settling at head coach, and he comes from that good tree in Philadelphia, so it could work out. It's just a total unknown there what we're going to get. But that system has been very quarterback friendly across the league as you look at Kansas City and Philadelphia. So it could end up being a pretty good fit. So as promised, let's look at the schedule here now. Vegas has this team at 6.5 wins, and they also say that betting over on that pays -140. So Vegas certainly is not saying, you know, this is a 2, 3, 4 win team like putting them at 32 in the power rankings would indicate. And their schedule, by the way, is pretty easy. As you might expect, the last place team in this division getting that AFC schedule, they are avoiding the top teams in a lot of conferences. If you look at the way schedules are assigned, if you finish last in your division, you get an easier schedule. It's just how it goes. So they start with Cincinnati. I gave them that win. At Washington, at Philly, losses, and then, you know, all these wins throughout the rest, and I won't focus in on every game. You can see who I have them beating here, but this is a very polarizing team, so I did put question marks next to a lot of games. You don't really know what games this defense is going to just fall apart and give up 35, 40 points. To that point, Andrew Luck can't do anything, but if they're going to stay in the game, Andrew Luck in the fourth quarter can definitely beat anyone on this schedule. Seriously. So I have them ending up at 9-7. Their win range is 4-10. So again, pretty polarizing. But you know, 9-10 wins, you are talking about potentially getting into the playoffs in the AFC. They do have a very competitive division. You know, Jacksonville came in, what, 0.2 lower if you look at the overall rating. And then we still have yet to reveal Houston and Tennessee. So it's actually going to be pretty tough for this team to win this division. I think they're right in the thick of things. I think wild card is probably a little more reasonable for this team if you really do have playoff expectations. I think they're right on the fringe. The Colts do come in as the 8th team in the AFC, so not too far from that spot I was just talking about. So Colts fans, what do you think? Did I miss anything? Am I too optimistic? What do you think happens with Andrew Luck this year? Fans of other teams, what do you think? If you enjoyed the video, if I changed your perspective on this Colts team a little bit, do like it. Helps me out more than you know. As always, guys, cheers, and we'll see you next time.